Orasutairu, a Pokemon fanfiction by Sanin_Saiyajin. Normal POV. A day has passed since Ash had won his battle against Koga and he is currently headed towards the Safari Zone. He looked around his surroundings to see trees covering all the areas. He can feel some Pokemons playing around the field and that made him smile. Nothing can beat the calmness that is brought about by nature. Pikachu was sleeping on his backpack snoring occasionally. Ash looked back at Pikachu and decided to let him rest more. Since it was morning, the breeze was cool and he enjoyed each and every step he took. There was something about mornings, it just gave Ash an incredible feeling of satisfaction. The morning air was cool and it calmed his mind greatly. Such a nice weather. Ash thinks as he keeps on walking towards his destination. Safari Zone was created a few years back for trainers to catch Pokemons without any setbacks. Trainers would get 30 Pokeballs each every time they check into the zone and they can catch whatever Pokemon they can using the 30 balls. But using Pokemon to fight wild Pokemons were strictly prohibited. Ash calmly continued walking for a few more hours while enjoying the atmosphere. Soon the sun rose and Ash was starting to feel warm, so he took off his jacket and continued trekking. After walking for about half an hour more, Ash saw the cabin of Safari Zone. He excitedly walked towards it and called out to the keeper. An officer Jenny was sitting in the office while doing some paperworks. Ash walks up to her and addresses her. "Hey, are you the warden of the Safari Zone?" Ash asks her politely, making her smile. "Yes, of course, sweetie, you want access to the zone?" She questions me with a sweet smile. "Yeah, I need an access to it." I tell her with a nod. "Okay. So, it'll be 5,000 Poke Dollars for entry. You can pay by cash or by credit," she says, and I give her my Pokédex to do the transaction. She puts my Pokédex inside a machine and after clicking in a few keys, she gave back my Pokédex. "All done. Here's your 30 Safari Balls. If you need more, you can approach me for extra, but it'll cost you 1,000 Poke Dollars." She informs me and I nod my head. "I'll get moving then," I tell her and walk out of the cabin. My first target is a Scyther. Ash thinks with a determined look. He starts walking around the Safari Zone trying to sense bug-type Pokemons. He kept searching for few hours, but the only Pokemon he saw were Butterfree, Nidoran, Paras and Rhyhorn. He even saw a Pinsir once, but a Pinsir wasn't his type, so he left it alone. "Where are you, Scyther?" Ash thinks in his mind as he continued walking for a few more minutes. Pikachu slowly stirred behind him and opened his eyes while yawning. "Oh, you're awake, buddy?" Ash questions him and Pikachu happily replies. "Pika. Great. We are in the Safari Zone now. I want you to keep an eye out for a Scyther." Ash informs Pikachu and he nods his head with a concentrated look. Ash kept walking for a few more hours but did not see any Pokemon nearby. "Man, Scyther seems impossible to find," Ash says out loud and Pikachu nods his head. "Let's rest for a while," Ash says and takes a short nap to refresh his mind. After napping for a few minutes, Ash stands up and motions Pikachu to follow him. "Let's move out again." Ash started searching for a few more hours before deciding to give up. "Leave Scyther. Let's just look around for other Pokemons." Ash gives up on Scyther and starts searching for some other rare Pokemon. He finds none. He almost felt like giving up, but then he sees tiny footprints on the ground. Since he was lazy, he decides to mess around and takes out his Pokédex to scan the footprints. It said it is the footprint of an Eevee. Now, Ash was interested for sure. "Hey Pikachu, can you follow this trail?" Ash questions Pikachu and he nods his head. So with that, Ash and Pikachu start looking out for an Eevee. They found one, it was asleep on the ground. "Great, now's my chance," Ash thinks and silently throws a Pokeball at it. The Pokeball hit the mark and sucked the Pokemon inside of it. It wiggled for a moment before it dinged. "All right, I caught an Eevee," Ash chants with excitement. "Let's head back, Pikachu," Ash says with a smile and starts walking back towards the cabin. He wanted a rare Pokemon. He got one, now he needed to continue his journey. It took about an hour to return to the cabin. The warden was shocked that Ash caught only one Pokemon, but Ash shrugged it off, saying that he didn't plan on catching many. The warden nodded her head and transferred the Eevee to Ash's license. "Thanks, officer. I'll take my leave now," Ash said and started walking out of the cabin, but suddenly an alarm went off. He went to see what happened and saw the warden talking to an officer with a worried tone. "Don't worry. I'll be there soon," Ash hears her say to the walkie-talkie. "What happened, officer?" Ash questions her. "It seems a Dragonite just evolved in the zone and is now rampaging on its area. We need to stop it fast," she informs him. Ash adopts an understanding look and nods his head. "Can I come with you?" Ash questions her. "No. It'll be too dangerous," she starts and Ash nods his head. "Now, do you want me to come?" Ash questions again, but this time he used a magic. He shows her his volcano and soul badge. She looks at it for a few minutes and says, "My ranger jeep is parked just outside the cabin. Let's move fast. Just tell me the location. I will fly there." Officer Jenny nods her head and tells him the location of the Dragonite. "But, why are you helping us?" she questions Ash. "I am not helping you. I am helping myself. I'll catch that Dragonite. I'll consider it as a thank you for stopping the rampage," Ash says with a smirk and releases Charizard. He didn't wait for Jenny's reply and hops in Charizard's back and commands him to fly towards the direction of the Dragonite. "Charizard, we are gonna fight your dad's species," I tell Charizard with a smirk, which he returned. "Char," he roared and sped up his flight. "It's our first battle since your evolution. You ready?" Ash questions Charizard, making him nod his head. "Let's get ourselves a Dragonite on board," Ash says with a smirk. Same time, another location. "Stand back. Try to attack all at once," a ranger shouted as they tried to get the Dragonite into control. They were trying to do everything to stop the rampaging Dragonite, but nothing seemed to work. The pseudo-legendary was just too strong for them. Dragonite looked at the puny humans who tried to subdue him and got more angrier. He had just lost his mother because some humans dropped bombs in his lake. As soon as his mother died, Dragonite evolved and blasted those humans away with a strong hyper beam. He wasn't able to face the reality that his mother died and let all his anger loose on the humans. He started throwing Dragon Pulse everywhere, destroying everything in its path. Just then some more humans came and tried to subdue him, making him more enraged. He started destroying all of them without any remorse. He looked around and saw that all the humans he was fighting were down. None of them were willing to fight anymore. He started charging up a hyper beam to end their worthless life. But Dragonite was interrupted by a steam of fire that hit his body, knocking it backwards. He looked at the attacker and saw a kid riding a Charizard. Ash and Charizard just reached in the last moment and saw all the humans injured. Ash got down from Charizard and commanded him to fight the Dragonite while he searched if anyone died during the fight. Ash walked over to the injured people and to his relief, he saw that everyone was alive. He looked towards the lake and saw a Dragonire floating on the surface. He had a worried look and decided to swim towards it. He checked its pulse and sighed. "Thank God it's not dead yet." Ash thinks and places his hand on top of Dragonite. To his surprise, his hands started glowing green and the light started healing the Dragonire. "Whoa, what's this?" he mumbled out. After a few seconds, Dragonire was fully healed, but it was still asleep. Ash took out some berries from his pocket and fed it to the Dragonire after crushing it. "What a luck. I get to catch 2 Dratini lines today," Ash thinks with an excited smile. He takes out an empty Pokeball from his pocket and touches the Dragonire's head gently with it and captures it without any difficulty. He looked up to see Dragonite and Charizard still fighting in the air and adopts a serious look. Charizard seemed to be winning the match, seeing how Dragonite was panting and clearly tired. "Charizard, end this fast. Use Dragon Dance." Charizard glows a green dragonish color and growls. "Now use Dragon Pulse." That did the job. Since Dragon types were weak towards Dragon type moves, Charizard easily overwhelmed the already tired Dragonite and knocked it down. I didn't want to miss the opportunity, so I quickly got off the water and threw a Pokeball at the Dragonite. Success. My second Dratini line of the day. Man, from not finding a Scyther to catching 2 pseudo-legendary. What a luck, Ash thinks with a happy look. Charizard flies down and stands before Ash with a Charizard equivalent of smirk. Yeah, you finally defeated a pseudo-legendary." Ash praised and hugs Charizard's neck happily. Charizard returned the hug and took flight with Ash in his arm. They flew in circles for a while before Charizard finally landed and releases Ash. Charizard. Don't ever do that again. Ash mumbles out as circles appear on his eyes. They heard the sound of sirens and saw Officer Jenny approach them. "Hey Officer Jenny." Ash greets her and she nods her head. "I see that you stopped the rampage. And you caught the Dragonite?" She asks Ash. "Yes officer." Ash simply replies. "If it was in some other situation, I won't have allowed. But since you fought off a Dragonite and rescued the life of my team, I'll let it slide this time," she says with a serious look. "Okay Officer Jenny." Ash simply says and starts walking away. "Since all the commotion is done, I'll take my move now," Ash said as he disappeared from sight. Normal POV. A few hours have passed since Ash had left the safari zone. He is now seated on a grassy green field as he decided to take a break from all the traveling. Man, nothing beats a nice long stretch to beat out the stress of traveling. Ash thought in bliss as he stretched his body. He had been traveling for non-stop these past days and it was now showing its toll on his body. Ash stretched a few more times before closing his eyes for a short nap. Pikachu, who was seated next to him, also closed his eyes to let sleep take over him. The two sat in this position for a few minutes before Ash opened his eyes and said, "Hey Pikachu. Let's meet our new members." Pikachu perched up immediately as he heard Ash say it. Pikachu has been excited about meeting his new friends ever since they left the Safari Zone. "Let's bring out Charizard and Lucario too," Ash said and released his two trusted friends. "Hey guys, I am going to release the new captures now. So I wanted you guys to be here." Ash informs them and they nod their head. Though they didn't show it, they were excited to meet their new members. "Let's release Eevee first," Ash muttered and released Eevee from its Pokeball. Eevee came out of its ball and looked around confused. Its eyes landed on Ash and realization hit it and its eyes widened. "Hey there little guy, I am Ash Ketchum, and I caught you," Ash informs Eevee. Eevee snaps out of its shock and looks at Ash for a few minutes before giving him an eye smile. Eevee smiled at Ash and started nuzzling into his leg. Ash smiled looking at this, picked Eevee up and placed it on his lap. He started petting Eevee, making it cuddle into his lap. "Let me introduce you to your team. This here is Pikachu, he is Charizard and he is Lucario," Ash said while pointing at all the members of his team. They said their respective greetings as he introduced them. Eevee smiled at them and nodded its head. "Let me scan you for a moment Eevee," Ash said as he took out his Pokédex from his pocket and pointed it at Eevee. Eevee, the evolution Pokémon. It is a normal type Pokémon. Eevee evolves into multiple Pokémon depending upon the method of evolution. This Eevee is female and knows the moves Growl, Tackle, Sand Attack, Bite and Double Kick. Its ability is Run Away. The mechanical voice of the Pokédex reads out. Ash nods his head and closes the Pokédex. He looks at Eevee and starts, "Wonderful moves you got there." Ash praises with a smile, making Eevee blush. "VV," Eevee says with a small blush adorning her face. "I'll set a proper training schedule for you in a few minutes." As Ash said that, he looked at his other Pokémon. "But before that, I'll release Dragonite and Dragonair first. Be ready guys," he said while hugging Eevee tightly in a protective way. His Pokémon nods their heads and gives him looks that showed that they understood. "Okay, you wanna return to your Pokeball Eevee? I'll release you as soon as I am done talking with the other captures." Ash looks at Eevee and says, making her nod her head. "Okay. I'll release you once I am done." With that said, Ash recalls Eevee and puts the Pokeball aside in his Pokeball holder. "I'll release Dragonair first," Ash says and his Pokemon nods their head. Charizard was fully ready to take down the dragon if she dared to even oppose them. Lucario had his aura fully controlled. If the Dragonair did anything, she can only hope that they allow her to live. Pikachu had his cheeks sparkling as a sign that he was ready. Ash nods his head and releases Dragonair from her Pokeball. It seems that the treatment Ash did on her worked properly. Whatever Ash did with his aura had healed Dragonair. She was looking as fresh and beautiful her species is known for. With elegance, Dragonair looked up from her position and cried towards the air with a wonderful and melodious tone. "Hey Dragonair," Ash calls out to her, getting her attention. She looks at him with a critical eye, as if trying to calculate him. She looks for a few more seconds before nodding her head at him. She made some strange noise and Ash looked at Lucario for translation. "She's thanking you for healing her. She said that she was barely conscious when you healed her, she thanks you for saving her life." Lucario says with a calm tone, surprising Dragonair. Dragonair looks at Lucario with a confusing gaze and Lucario says, I can speak human language through aura. This seemed to explain Dragonair as she nodded her head. She looked at Ash with a worried gaze and then looked at Lucario before making the same strange noise from before. Ash looked at Lucario and he answers. She's asking you about her son. I assume she is talking about the Dragonite that you caught. Lucario calmly answers, making Ash adopt an understanding look. Oh, don't worry Dragonair, I have Dragonite right here. Ash says and shows her Dragonite's Pokeball, making her smile brightly. Here, let me release him. Be careful guys. Ash says and warns his companion, making them nod their head. As Ash released Dragonite, he bellowed loudly towards the sky and looked at Ash with red eyes that was demanding blood. Calm down Dragonite. I am Ash Ketchum, your new trainer. If you don't want any trouble, I'd suggest that you calm down. Ash says with a serious tone, but Dragonite didn't seem to care about it. Dragonite mom was murdered, and right after his mom got murdered, some kid comes to him with an overwhelmingly powerful fire-breathing dragon and captures him with a ball of some sort. Dragonite was pissed and it showed in his eyes. Dragonair looked at Dragonite with a pitiful gaze and slithered towards him and catches his attention, making his eyes widen. They started conversing and Ash looks at Lucario for translation. Dragonair is telling Dragonite that you saved her before she died. She is trying to calm his rage and it seems like it is working. Lucario explains and Charizard says, Char, which caused Lucario to sweat drop. Charizard is saying that even if Dragonair doesn't manage to calm Dragonite, he knows several ways to calm that Dragonite. Pikachu jumps up towards Charizard's shoulder and gives a thumbs up, making Ash sweat drop alongside Lucario. Guys, we are trying to make friends with Dragonite, not threaten him with death or something. Ash says with a nervous laugh, making Charizard and Pikachu huff at him. Ash decides to ignore them and walks towards Dragonite. Hey Dragonite, I've captured you and you're now my Pokemon. I don't believe in releasing a Pokemon, and so, if you disobey me or anything like that, trust me, I will make sure that you won't be in the condition of disobeying me anymore. Understood. Ash warns Dragonite with a serious look and Dragonite looked at Ash with a calculating gaze. Dragonite always wanted to experience what it feels like to travel around the world, but he wanted a strong trainer who can make him stronger. He made a decision in his past that if he were to become a trainer's Pokemon, the trainer should be competent enough to handle him. He looked at Ash and slowly nodded his head. Ash will do, he seemed strong enough. Stronger than himself. Ash smiled at Dragonite and put his arm forward for a handshake. Dragonite looked at his hand for a minute before he put his own small hands forward. Suddenly, Dragonite pulled Ash for a hug and squeezed him tightly with making noises. Tears leaked out of his face and he hugged Ash. He is thanking you for saving his mother. He's saying that he was very worried when his mother was hurt. He pledges full loyalty towards you and wants to be your partner. Lucario translates for Ash, making him laugh wholeheartedly. Ash hugged Dragonite back and said, Hey, don't worry, I did what I can. You don't have to thank me. And yeah, we are partners the moment you entered my Pokeball. Welcome to the family. Dragonair, who was watching the scene with a smile, made a few noise directed to Lucario and he nods his head. Master will understand. Do not worry. Lucario tells her, making her nod her head. Ash and Dragonite separates and he looks towards his other Pokemon. Guys, welcome Dragonite and Dragonair to the family. As Ash said that, Pikachu and Lucario immediately started conversing with the two Mons, but Charizard stayed silent. He slowly walked towards Dragonite and looked at him dead in the eyes. Dragonite returned the look with the same intensity. They continued this staring contest for a few more seconds before they pumped their fist together. Ash smiled as they did that. Master, Dragonair wants to tell you something. Lucario says as he walked towards Ash. Ask up. What is it? Ash said while looking at Dragonair. She's saying she doesn't like to battle. Lucario says and Ash adopts an understanding look. Oh, is it true Dragonair? Ash questions her and she nods her head. Ash looks at her for a few seconds before smiling at her. No worries, you can stay with my mom if that's the case. She is a breeder and she have some experience with dragon Pokemon. I am sure you'll love her. Ash tells her. Dragonair looked very happy after hearing it and starts nuzzling Ash, making him giggle. She's thanking you Ash. She didn't expect you to understand her problem after she saw you talking to Dragonite. She thought that you'll force her to fight. Lucario explains to Ash, making his eyes widen. No. That's not the case. If I have a Pokémon and they don't obey me, I will do whatever it takes to make them obey me. But if my Pokémon have wishes such as this, I will happily fulfill their wishes. If you don't like battling, I won't force you to battle. Ash explains while rubbing his head. Yeah, that's what I told her. Lucario says with a nod. Ash nods his head and motions for his Pokémon to come together. He releases Eevee and hugs her to his chest and addressed his Pokémon. Some of you might not know this, but I am currently traveling across. Ash starts his story. Ash and Pikachu can be seen strolling their ways through the path when suddenly Pikachu sniffed the air and his tail wiggled. Pikachu muttered and started running inside the forest. Hey, wait up Pikachu! Ash calls out and runs after him. A few moments later, Pikachu comes to a stop in front of a big tree with a hollowed bottom. Ash tilts his head and walks towards Pikachu. Hey Pika, why did you bring me here? Ash questions and looks at the tree and notices something. There was an Eevee tied to the tree. Huh, an Eevee? Ash mutters and walks up to it. Is it abandoned? Ash questions with a frown and picks the Eevee up, making it squeal at him. He notices a belt on its neck and looks at it. Huh, a belt. Maybe it is not abandoned. Ash mutters and reads the badge attached to the belt. Stone Town, the badge said. Stone Town. Ash thinks and brings out his guidebook and searches for Stone Town. A town that is known for evolutionary stones. Let's take Eevee back to its owner. Ash ponders and picks Eevee up and starts walking towards the Stone Town. Ash looks at the badge again and sees an address written. He looks at it and starts walking towards the location. He entered the town and started searching for the house and finally finds it in the middle of the town next to the mountain. Whoa, it's a freaking palace. Ash thinks with awe. The house in front of him was a 4-story mansion and was painted white. There was a big garden surrounding the mansion filled. There was a fountain near the edge where water and grass Pokémons were playing. Several people were gathered in the garden and were evolving their Pokémons using stones. Is this some sort of evolving festival? Ash thinks in the back of his mind. There were 3 teens who looked like they were the hosts of the party. One of them was wearing yellow and had yellow hair. Similarly, another guy was wearing blue and his hair was also blue. The last guy was wearing red and his hair was red. Okay, what the heck are they wearing? Ash thinks with a freaked out look and was about to walk away from the mansion when the guy wearing red spots him. Hey Eevee, there you are, the guy said, gathering the attention of the other 2 guys, and they run towards him. Hey Eevee, where did you run off to? The red-haired guy said and took Eevee out of Ash's hand. Hey, is this Eevee yours? Ash questions the guy and he nods his head. Yeah, he belongs to our younger brother. The guy answers and Ash nods his head. We organized this party to evolve Eevee, and he ran away suddenly. I sincerely thank you for bringing him back here. The yellow-haired guy said and Ash nods his head. No problem. I see you have a Pikachu with you. Did you know? With a Thunderstone, you can evolve your Pikachu to a Raichu. The guy informs Ash and he nods his head. Yeah, in fact, I have an Eevee too. Ash informs them and they show interested looks. Oh, so, what are you planning to evolve your Eevee into? The blue-haired guy questioned. I don't know, but I guess I'll evolve it into a Vaporeon when time comes. Ash says and the blue-haired guy's eye widen. I am Ash Ketchum. Ash suddenly says, bowing at them. Oh so sorry. We didn't introduce ourselves. My name is Rainer. The blue-haired guy says. Pyro. The red-haired guy says. Nice to meet you, my name is Sparky. The yellow-haired guy says. Nice to meet you. Ash says with a nod and they nods their head at him. Eevee. A boy suddenly says and runs up to them. Who brought back Eevee? The little kid asks and snatches Eevee away from Pyro's arm. Ash here brought back the Eevee Mikey. Sparky says and Mikey nods his head sadly. Decide what you'll evolve your Eevee into quick and tell us. We'll be waiting for your decision. Sparky says and looks at Ash. We would have loved to stay and chat, but can you please excuse us now, we have something to attend to. Sparky says walks away with his brothers. Ash nods and looks at Mikey who was walking towards a bench. He looked at Mikey as he sadly sat on the bench and started petting Eevee with a frown. Something is bothering this kid. Ash thinks and walks towards him and seats next to him. Hey there Mikey. Something bothering you? Ash questions him with a tilt of his head. Yeah, I don't want to evolve my Eevee. Mikey answers and Ash nods his head. Oh, so that's why you left the Eevee there inside the tree. Ash questions and Mikey nods his head. I kept him there so that I can bring him back after the party is over. But you brought him back. Mikey says with a sigh. Oh, I see. You don't want to evolve your Eevee into Vaporeon, Jolteon or Flareon, right? Ash questions him with a nod. Yeah, Mikey says with a frown. You know, there are many other Pokémons Eevee can evolve into. Ash says, gathering Mikey's attention. What? Mikey questions him. I don't know much, but I studied that there were several other evolution. Dark types, physic types, fairy, ice and even grass types. Ash tells Mikey his limited knowledge. Oh, can you tell me how to evolve Eevee onto those? Mikey asks him with hopeful eyes. No, sadly I can't. Even I don't have much knowledge on that field. Ash says with a sigh. But yeah, you'll figure it out once you start your journey. Ash says and stands up from his place. Hey Ash. Ash hears his name being called out and sees Rainer running towards him. Before you said that you wanted to evolve your Eevee into a Vaporeon, right? Here, take this Waterstone as a token of gratitude for bringing Eevee back. Rainer says and hands the Waterstone to Ash. Ash, not being one to turn down gifts, gladly took the Waterstone and puts it inside his bag. Hey Rainer. No need of rushing. Sparky scolds as he walks towards them with Pyro with him. So, Mikey, what's your decision? Which Pokémon do you want to evolve your Eevee into? Pyro questions Mikey with a smile. Vaporeon. Once inside the water, it dissolves and become invisible. Rainer says, trying to persuade his brother to evolve his Eevee into a Vaporeon. Jolteon. One of the best electric types. Sparky says with a smirk. Or Flareon, the strongest evolution. None of them. Mikey says with a frown. I don't want to evolve my Eevee into any of these Pokémons. I'll evolve it into some other Pokémon that matches me and my Eevee. Mikey says with a determined look. Huh, there's no evolution other than these three. Pyro says with a frown. There are. Ash says, gathering the brothers' information. And what proof do you have to support your claim? Sparky questions and Ash sighs and takes out his Pokédex and shows them the picture of Umbreon. This is the dark type evolution of Eevee. Ash informs and their eyes widen in realization. There are other evolutions. The brother asks Ash and he nods his head. Yeah, Ash says and puts his dex inside. Yeah, I want to evolve Eevee into one of the others. Mikey says with finality and his brother smiles at him. That's completely your choice, little brother. Sparky says and his brothers nods their head. Wait, you mean you're not angry at me for not choosing an evolution you prefer? Mikey says and his brother chuckles at him. You're our brother. We won't be angry at you for such a trivial reason. Rainer says and hugs Mikey, making him laugh. Ash looks at the scene with a small smile and looks at Sparky and says, I guess I'll take my leave now. I have to cover as much road as I can before the sun sets. Ash says and Sparky nods his head. Thanks Ash, you helped my brother find his way. I can't be more grateful. Here, take this Thunderstone. You'll need it to evolve your Pikachu in the future. Sparky says and Ash takes the stone from his hand. Ash looks at Pikachu who was sitting on his shoulder. Pikachu notices him and smiles at him softly, making Ash smile back at him. Thanks for the gift, Sparky. I'll use this gift responsibly. Ash says and puts the Thunderstone inside his bag. Sparky smiles and leads Ash outside. I'll take my leave now then. Goodbye. Ash says and starts walking away. See ya. Sparky says and walks back into the party. Pokémon P1 Grand Prix. Ash hummed as he looked at a large building with several sculptures of fighting Pokémons engraved on it. This tournament can be a good warm-up for Lucario. Ash ponders and decides to ask Lucario if he wanted to enter the tournament. Pikachu. Pikachu says and Ash nods his head. Yeah, Lucario won't say no. Ash laughs and starts walking towards the forest where no one can see him and releases Lucario. Hey, Lucario, so, there's this tournament for fighting-type Pokémons that will be held 2 days from today. So, you wanna give it a shot? Ash questions Lucario and his eyes gets a tint on them. Definitely. I mean, I won't disappoint. Lucario says with a blush. Ash smiles at him and says, let's do it then. We have 2 days to train for the tournament. Let's get ready for it. Ash says and starts punching the air with a determined look. Thank God it's just us, otherwise, think about the embarrassment Master's action will cause. Lucario whispered at Pikachu, making him nod his head with a deadpan. Okay, let's start training. Since this is a fighting type tournament, you won't be allowed to use special moves. Ash says and Lucario nods his head. Let's focus on your fighting type moves for now. Ash says and commands Lucario to practice all the moves he had learnt over the course of the month. I can't believe it's already a month after my journey started. Ash thinks with a smile. Ash takes out his other Pokeballs and releases them. The only Pokemon missing was Dragonair, who he had sent to his mother to give her company. He looked over his Pokemon and nodded at them. Training time, guys. We'll be training here for 2 days. Prepare yourself for one rough session. Ash says and all his Pokemons nods their heads. He gave them their training schedule for the day and had them start their training. Ash walks towards a tree and sits down to start meditating. I can still only sense what's around me. I have to figure out how I managed to create that shield and the green aura that healed Dragonair. Ash thinks and gets lost in his meditation. -2 days later. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the P1 Grand Prix. Today we get to experience various trainers and their Pokemon face off against each other. We can feel the tension in the air as all the trainers are in their toes. Let's give a round of applause to all the participants. And now, without further delay, let's start the P1 Grand Prix. The MC said through his mic, gathering the attention of the crowd and the trainers. Ash was sitting in the trainers' lounge trying to measure the strength of every participant. They don't stand a chance against Lucario. Ash thinks with a proud look. He looks at Lucario, who was getting gawked at. Not because he was white, but because they didn't see a Lucario before in their life and was shocked to see an unknown Pokemon. Ash looks at Lucario and motions him to come forward. Let's set history. We are gonna beat every Pokemon here with only 1 attack each. Ash says and Lucario nods at him with a smirk. Let's go. Ash says, offering his hands for a fist bump. Lucario smirks and returns the bump. Ash, Ketchum and Lucario, please come up to the stage. The referee says and Ash nods his head at Lucario. Our turn. Lucario nods his head and starts walking behind Ash towards the ring. Lucario. Force palm. 1 shot. It was all it took to take out the Primeape from the championship. Brick break. And it knocked down the Geodude. Seismic toss. With this single move, Ash and Lucario won the P1 Grand Prix trophy after beating a Hitmonchan. Can you believe it, folks? Ash Ketchum and his super strong Lucario defeated all their opponents with only 1 attack each. I've never seen a stronger Pokemon in my life. Give a round of applause for both of them. The MC said, and several things followed after that. Ash getting a handsome cash of 50,000 Poke Dollars and Lucario getting the P1 belt. Ash was almost feeling guilty for taking part in such an easy tournament, but quickly set it aside. Lucario was just too strong for them. Ash thinks with a proud look while waving at the crowd. A few days later. Master, I can sense a dark aura somewhere. I believe that it belongs to an otherworldly one. Lucario informs Ash and he nods his head. Yeah, I can sense it too. Ash says with a frown and starts looking around. Pika Pika. Pikachu questions, not understanding what they were talking about. And then suddenly Pikachu's ear perched up. He too can sense something uneasy in the environment. Ash releases Charizard and Dragonite from the Pokeballs. Ash and Pikachu gets onto Charizard and Lucario gets onto Dragonite and they start flying towards the source of the sensation. Master, the source isn't coming from anywhere near here. It's like, the otherworldly one is calling for us from a very far place. Lucario says and Ash nods his head. Yeah, it's faint but I can sense a pull. Ash tells Lucario. Ash commands Charizard to fly faster. They flew for a few hours before they reached an island that seemed to be filled with tourists. They ignored them and continued flying towards their destination. Master, it's a rock statue. Lucario says, pointing towards a statue. Can you sense it? Ash questions Lucario and he nods his head. It was a human before, its soul is obviously trapped in the statue. Lucario says and Ash nods his head. Ash commands Charizard to land near the statue and Charizard does so. Go away from here. Suddenly a woman dressed in white comes out of the statue and starts shouting random words at them. What the? Ash says and starts backing with fear evident on his face. Master. Don't fear. This soul won't hurt you. Lucario says and puts a comforting hand on Ash's shoulder. Charizard says and puts his wings around Ash in a protective way. Pikachu sparks his cheeks and Dragonite stands in front of him. Ash looks at their gestures with shock and smiles softly. His Pokémon will protect him, the thought made him smile. Woman, who are you? Lucario questions her with a commanding tone, making her laugh at him. Who are you? How dare you interrupt my 1,000 years of wait? The woman says in return. Expected. Lucario smirks at her and looks at Ash. Master, use your Pokédex to scan this woman. Lucario says and Ash nods his head. The result shocked him. The woman in front of him wasn't a ghost, in fact, it was a Ghastly. A Ghastly, Ash says with a shocked tone, making it laugh out. Ha ha ha, you figured it out. The woman laughs while morphing into a Ghastly. Ha ha ha, no one has uncovered my secret and lived to tell about it. You'll have to die, Ghastly says with a maniacal grin. Lucario gets tired of his bullshit and fires an aura sphere at Ghastly. Ghastly got shocked by the sudden attack and wasn't able to dodge, getting knocked out in one attack. Master, catch him, Lucario says and Ash throws a Pokeball at him instantly. The ball rocks a few times and suddenly stops. Ah, that was anticlimactic, Ash says and Pikachu nods his head while the dragons sweat drop. That Ghastly got a lot of potential, I can see that. But that potential hasn't been tapped yet. Lucario says with a sagely look, making Ash sweat drop. You just finished Ghastly with one attack. Ash says and Lucario shrugs his shoulder. He was slow, weak, talking trash and he was off guard. Lucario says with a shrug and his companions sigh at him. At least I got a new Pokémon. I was planning to catch a Gengar in the Pokémon Tower, it seems my wish is already granted. Ash says while picking up Ghastly's ball and clipped him into his belt. Lucario nods and says, you can come out now. Huh, who are you talking to, Lucario? Ash questions and his other Pokémons also questions him something similar. That faint pull, it's still there, and it's coming from the statue. Lucario says and Ash's eyes widen. He tried concentrating his aura and finds out that Lucario is right. The pull is still there. You have my sincere gratitude. The woman who Ghastly replicated came out of the statue. Thanks for catching that Ghastly. Please help him tap into his potential. The woman bows at Ash, who was left dazed by her beauty. Oh okay. Ash stuttered with a blush. The woman smiles at him and looks at Lucario. I never saw a Pokémon like you, but I thank you too. The woman bows at Lucario, making him nod his head. She then looks at Dragonite and Charizard and says, thanks for bringing the Aura Guardians here. Who are you? Ash questions the woman and she starts narrating him the tale of her love story that happened 1,000 years ago. That's overwhelming. You're waiting for your lover for the past 1,000 years. Ash says with a shocked look. Yes, and I'll wait for another 1,000 years. The woman says, making Ash nod his head. So, you don't want to go to the afterlife? No, I am content with waiting here. The woman says and they nod their heads. You know that if a master or a guardian hears about you, they'll come here to perform a soul burial on you, right? Lucario informs and the woman nods her head. There is only one Aura Guardian in the world right now. Riley and Sinnoh, there's no other Aura Guardian in the world. Ash says and the woman's eye brightens hearing the news. Less chances of my discovery then. The woman says and Ash nods his head. Why did you call for our help? Ash questions the woman. So that you can capture Ghastly. Ghastly's been with me for several years and he's been trying to keep my name alive. The woman starts and Ash nods his head. But I wanted him to travel around the world and not be restricted to this place. The woman says and Ash hums in understanding. I would have loved to stay and chat. But I'll have to go now. May you meet your lover soon. Ash says and the woman nods her head and disappears into the statue. Hey guys, let's fly directly to Celadon. Ash says and his Pokémons nods their head. They flew away from the island and Ash looks back at the island with one thought in mind. I'll return to give you a proper soul burial after the leagues.